Why would a single invitation destroy everything I'd built? How can one harmless lie at a family gathering lead to silence so final it feels like punishment? What happens when the man I thought I controlled simply walks away, without a word, without a fight? Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. I'm Vera, and I swear I didn't mean for it to look that bad. People keep saying I brought this on myself, but that's not fair. It was just one stupid invitation, one text I sent without thinking. I wanted our engagement dinner to feel relaxed, friendly, not stiff like Gavin likes things. So when my ex, Elias, texted asking about the date, I thought, why not? It's not like I was hiding anything. He was part of my life once, and I just wanted to show that everyone could get along. But when Gavin found out later, his silence hit harder than any argument. He didn't yell, didn't accuse, didn't even ask for an explanation. He just started getting quiet in ways that felt worse than anger. People say silence means peace, but it felt like punishment. I told myself I could fix it, that a small lie would smooth everything over. I told him I'd accidentally sent the invite to the wrong person. He just nodded like he already knew the truth. Now I can't stop wondering when exactly he decided he was done. Maybe not when I lied, but when I thought I could lie and still be loved. I'm not saying it started as a lie. It started as a test. I wanted to see if Gavin would even notice. We'd been engaged for 8 months, and everything about our life felt slow, predictable, tidy. He's the kind of man who keeps receipts folded by date and labels his charger cords with tape. The kind of man who asks before moving a mug. People call that thoughtful. I call it safe. And sometimes safe feels like invisible. So when I got the group chat reminder about our engagement dinner, I hesitated before hitting send. It was meant for our families and close friends. But my thumb hovered on another name, Elias. He'd texted the week before about a gallery opening and signed off with a half-joking, "Still owe you a dance" from the last wedding. I'd laughed it off, told him I was taken but flattered. He sent a smiley face. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. That night, Gavin was doing his usual thing at the dining table, laptop open, spreadsheets glowing on his screen. I was scrolling through messages on the couch, half bored, half curious. My reflection stared back at me from the phone like someone daring me. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the way Gavin didn't look up once in an hour. I typed the words before I could think. Dinner next weekend. Just a few people. You should come. Catch up. Sent. A tiny rush went through me, sharp and thrilling. Then guilt came fast behind it, thin and practical, like his voice when he asks for an explanation. I pictured him reading over my shoulder, calm eyes narrowing, asking, "Why him?" And me, with no good answer. He looked up finally, rubbing the back of his neck. "You planning something big for next weekend?" My heart jumped. "Just the dinner. You know, the usual." He nodded, eyes drifting back to his screen. I should check the schedule. He opened his phone, typed something, and set it face down on the table. I saw the reflection of the screen before it went dark, a small calendar alert flashing. Downtown, 11:15 a.m. Probably work, I thought. He always has these little notes, storage pickup, bank errand, meeting, personal. He says they help him stay organized. I say they make him feel like a machine. I tried to lighten the air. "You're not nervous about the dinner, right? You always look nervous." He smiled a little. "I'll be fine, as long as you are." That tone, steady, unreadable, always throws me off. I joked that he sounded like a therapist. He said maybe I should listen like a client. I laughed too loudly and went back to my phone. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. 2 mugs on the counter, his spotless, mine half full. He'd already left for work. My phone buzzed with a new message. "Can't wait. Been too long. E." I deleted it instantly, then retyped a new message. "Actually, might be too full of guests. I'll let you know. Sent that." But the first one stayed in my head, bold and glowing. Later that day, I met Nadia for lunch. She listened while stabbing at her salad like every story of mine was a mild inconvenience to her schedule. When I told her what I'd done, she grinned. "You invited the ex? Iconic." I said it wasn't like that. She said, "Please. It's not cheating to remember you're still desirable." That line stuck with me all afternoon. Desirable. I hadn't felt that word apply to me in months. Gavin loved me, sure, but he never looked at me like I was something to lose anymore. He looked like he was checking a box that said stable future. When I got home, he was back early, working quietly at the desk, papers arranged in perfect rows. I stood behind him, trying to read the top sheet upside down. Numbers, columns, notes in neat blue ink. No titles, just dates. He turned slightly, catching me. "Need something?" he asked. "Just saying hi," I said quickly. He smiled faintly. "Hi." I sat on the armrest of the couch, crossing my legs, watching him. "You're not overdoing it, are you? It's just dinner, not an audit." "I like to be ready," he said. Ready. He always uses that word. Ready for bills, ready for weather, ready for me to mess up, maybe. I opened my phone again, pretending to check RSVPs. The group chat was filling fast. Family emojis, hearts, excitement. I typed another message privately to Elias. "It's fine. Come. He won't mind." Then I hit send and stared at the screen like I could pull the words back. That evening, while Gavin cooked, I noticed his drawer in the hallway desk slightly open. Normally it's locked. I could see the corner of a folder labeled in his handwriting, Household. I told myself it was bills, maybe receipts. Still, the label made something twist in me, like my life had become a section in one of his files. At dinner, I tried to talk about music for the event, colors, seating charts. He nodded at all the right places. When I joked that I'd handle the social side and he could handle the spreadsheets, he just said, "Seems fair." I laughed, but it came out sharp. "Don't sound so thrilled to be marrying me." He met my eyes then, calm again. "I am. I just want you to be sure you're marrying me, not the version of me you think looks best in pictures." That line hit harder than it should have. I turned back to my plate. The air smelled faintly of paper and printer toner from the study. Before bed, he set his alarm for 6:30. I caught a glimpse of another one underneath. Paper drop, 7:10. I asked what it meant. "Just something for work," he said. "On a Saturday?" He shrugged. "Deadlines don't wait." He kissed my forehead, soft, routine. Then he went to the guest room, said the light there helped him sleep better. I told myself it was temporary. After he closed the door, I sat on the bed with my phone glowing in the dark. Elias had sent another message. "Looking forward to seeing you again. Promise I'll behave." I typed back, "Don't make it weird." He sent a winking emoji. I muted the thread. Still, the phone felt hot in my hand, heavy with something I wasn't ready to name. Around midnight, I heard a soft mechanical whir from the other room. The printer again. A page sliding out. Then silence. I crept to the doorway and peeked in. Gavin wasn't at the desk, but the page lay face down on the tray. Blank. Totally blank. I stood there a long moment, wondering why anyone would print nothing at all. Maybe it jammed. Maybe it was just another one of his quiet habits. But when I looked closer, I noticed something taped under the top drawer. A small USB drive, labeled only with the date. I didn't touch it. I just stared until I felt my chest tighten. When I went back to bed, I told myself he was just being paranoid, collecting things like always. I'd fix everything after the dinner, smooth it all over, laugh about how dramatic he could be. But before I fell asleep, my phone buzzed once more. From Elias. "Still on for next week?" And from Gavin's calendar reminder, flashing faintly across the dark screen on his desk. Downtown, 11:15 a.m. I didn't know it yet, but both messages meant the same thing. Something had already been set in motion, and I wasn't the one in control anymore. The engagement dinner started calm, almost boring. I'd picked a quiet restaurant with candles, linen napkins, soft music, everything designed to look romantic in photos. I told Gavin I wanted something simple but elegant, which really meant controlled. I didn't want surprises, except of course the one I'd already invited. We arrived early because Gavin hates being late. He carried the gift bags for my parents and handed them to the hostess like they were fragile artifacts. He even thanked her twice. I teased him for acting like a politician. He smiled without answering. That's the thing about him. His quiet can feel polite or pointed, depending on what you've done. Guests started arriving in waves. My mother hugged me too tightly. My father ordered wine before sitting down. Nadia made a scene about the table lighting. I kept checking my phone under the napkin. Each buzz made my heart skip. Elias hadn't replied all afternoon, and I told myself maybe he'd changed his mind. That would have been easier. Then I saw him. He walked in like the room was already his, in a dark jacket that looked expensive but not loud. He smiled, that same easy grin that used to make me feel clever for catching his attention. "Still on time," he said when he reached me. My breath caught. I didn't look at Gavin right away. "You made it," I said, trying to sound casual. I wasn't sure. He leaned in slightly. "Wouldn't miss it. Congrats, by the way." Only then did I glance at Gavin. He was standing beside my mother, shaking my father's hand. He looked calm. Too calm. I thought maybe he hadn't seen Elias yet, but of course he had. Gavin sees everything. When I introduced them, I used a bright voice, pretending it wasn't strange. Elias, this is Gavin. They shook hands. Gavin's smile was small, polite, unreadable. Nice of you to come, he said. Elias nodded. Wouldn't have felt right to miss it. Vera and I go way back. I laughed lightly. College days. Feels like another lifetime. No one laughed with me. The evening dragged into small talk and polite noise. Waiters brought bread, refilled glasses, cleared plates. My friends chatted about old memories. My parents asked about honeymoon plans. I kept performing, leaning close to Gavin, touching his hand, saying "we" too often. I wanted the picture to look perfect. At one point, Nadia whispered, "Girl, he's staring at you." I didn't have to ask who. Elias's gaze was steady from across the table. He wasn't subtle, but he never had been. He made jokes about our old parties, the late-night drives, the time we'd crashed a wedding for fun. People laughed, even Gavin, which somehow made me more nervous. When dessert arrived, the waiter placed 2 plates in front of us, one with chocolate cake, one with fruit tarts. Gavin gestured to mine. "You used to like the lemon ones." "Still do," I said, forcing a smile. He nodded. "Good to know." It felt like a code, something under the surface I couldn't decode fast enough. Elias leaned closer, pretending to look at the menu again. "Didn't expect him to be so chill," he murmured. I whispered back, "He's fine." Nadia caught the exchange and raised her eyebrows. I ignored her. Then the manager brought out a champagne bottle for the toast. Everyone lifted their glasses. Gavin stood. "To Vera," he said simply. "She makes life interesting." A few chuckles, a few clinks. I laughed, though I couldn't tell if it was meant kindly. When we sat again, the air had shifted. Elias started telling a story about the first time he met me, how I'd gotten lost after a concert and ended up in his car because mine had broken down. He left out nothing. My cheeks burned. People smiled awkwardly. "My mother gave me a look that could curdle wine," I said. "That was ages ago." Gavin didn't interrupt. He just sliced his dessert slowly, as if listening for details to file away. When the plates were cleared, Nadia wanted a group photo. She made everyone stand close, bumping elbows. Elias stood right beside me, his hand brushing my back. Cameras flashed. Gavin smiled for the picture, but not for me. Afterward, he excused himself to speak to the waiter. He was gone longer than expected. I told myself he was settling the bill, being his usual efficient self. But when I went to the restroom and came back, his seat was empty, his jacket gone. I looked around the table. Did Gavin go outside? My father frowned. He said something about needing air. Elias smirked. "Can't handle the crowd?" I snapped. "Don't start." He raised his hands. "Just asking." The silence that followed was thick. Even Nadia didn't rescue me. She busied herself with her phone. My mother whispered to my father. I felt their judgment pressing like heat on my neck. I waited 10 minutes, then 20. I called Gavin's phone. No answer. Sent a text. "Where are you?" Nothing. Elias leaned closer again. "He'll cool off." "Stay out of it," I said. He shrugged. "You wanted me here." I almost said I didn't mean it, but that would have sounded weak. Instead, I grabbed my purse and stood up. The chair legs scraped loud enough to make people look. "Excuse me." Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. Gavin's car wasn't in the parking lot. Only a faint smell of exhaust lingered. I checked my phone again. No missed calls, just silence. When I went back inside, the table was half empty. My parents had left quietly. Nadia said they'd had enough. The manager handed me a small envelope. "Mr. Rourke asked me to give you this." My stomach dropped. I opened it. Inside was a folded napkin with our initials embroidered in blue, part of the engagement set my aunt had gifted us. On the napkin, a note in his handwriting, "Dinner was paid. Get home safe." That was all. Nadia tried to play it off. "Maybe he just needs space." I nodded numbly, but inside something cracked. I wanted to chase him, to explain, to twist the story into something forgivable. But pride is heavier than guilt, and mine wouldn't let me move. I stayed another hour pretending to laugh at nothing, pretending it wasn't a disaster. Elias offered to drive me home. I refused. I didn't want another mistake. By the time I reached the apartment, his shoes were gone from the entryway. The coat rack looked lighter. The drawers in the guest room were half open, empty. On the kitchen counter sat 2 mugs again, his clean, mine still half full from morning. A folded receipt lay beside them. Gas station, time-stamped 9:42 p.m., route heading out of town. I told myself he'd be back. He always came back after cooling off. He was rational, predictable, steady. He didn't make scenes. That's what I used to love about him. I poured wine into my cold mug and tried to scroll through my phone like nothing had changed. Messages from Nadia, a selfie from the dinner, my mother's short text. We need to talk tomorrow. And one unread notification near the top. Gavin's calendar, shared with me months ago and forgotten. A new entry appeared, added only an hour earlier. Meeting, personal. 9:25 a.m., downtown. The letters blurred as I stared. My wine tasted like metal. I told myself it was just another errand, something boring, something safe. But deep down, I felt that same rush from the night I sent the first message, the one that started everything. Except now, it wasn't thrilling. It was cold, quiet, final. I went to bed fully dressed, phone in hand, waiting for the sound of keys in the lock, waiting for a fight, or an explanation, or even anger. Anything that meant we were still a story worth arguing about. But the only sound that came was the soft hum of the fridge, and somewhere down the hall, the faint click of a door closing that didn't belong to this apartment at all. When I woke up the next morning, the apartment felt hollow. Not just empty, hollow like something had been scooped out while I slept. His jacket wasn't on the hook, his watch wasn't on the dresser, even the smell of his aftershave was gone from the bathroom. The bed looked too big. I checked my phone, no messages. The calendar alert he'd made was still there, though. Meeting, personal. 9:25 a.m. downtown. I told myself I wasn't panicking, just curious. He was probably at work, pretending everything was normal. Gavin hated scenes. Maybe that was his way of punishing me, by acting like I didn't exist until I begged him to talk. I could fix that. I always could. At the office, I walked in with forced confidence. People love a tragedy if it looks clean. Nadia had already texted, "You okay?" I replied, "He's being dramatic, that's all." By mid-morning, whispers had started. Someone had posted photos from the dinner on social media. A tagged image of me standing beside Elias, the champagne glasses clinking mid-toast. The caption, "Old friends, new beginnings." The comments were a mix of hearts and question marks. My stomach twisted. I typed "uninvite drama" in the search bar and deleted it again. During lunch, a coworker named Grace approached my desk, pretending to care. "Rough night?" she asked. "Just tired," I said. She smiled too sweetly. "Saw some of those photos. You looked surprised." I forced a laugh. Elias just showed up. Total coincidence. She tilted her head. "Sure." Then she walked away, whispering to another girl near the printer. I hated the sound of their quiet laughter. I texted Gavin again. "Can we talk?" Nothing. A few minutes later, I saw his name pop up on my email screen instead. "Please send future communications to my personal address for scheduling purposes. Thank you." Scheduling purposes. The words hit like a slap. Who even talks like that to their fiancé? By late afternoon, I gave up pretending to work. I shut my computer, told my boss I was handling a family emergency, and left. On the drive home, I rehearsed my lines. How it was all a misunderstanding, how I'd meant to text someone else, how people overreact. I could almost hear myself convincing him. When I walked into the apartment, the lights were off, but the faint hum of the printer filled the air again. A single sheet slid out as I stepped closer. Blank, just like before. On the desk sat a new folder. Utilities, another beside it, bank. Each one labeled neatly in his small, perfect handwriting. I picked up the top one, opened it halfway, and froze. Inside were printed screenshots, emails, receipts, calendar logs, every one of my late nights, every charge to restaurants I hadn't told him about. The timestamps lined up with messages I'd sent to Elias. A chill crawled up my spine. The front door clicked open behind me. Gavin walked in, calm as if he'd just returned from groceries. "I thought you left," I said. "I did." He placed a paper bag on the counter. "Came back to get a few things." My mouth went dry. "You went through my emails?" He didn't look at me. "I didn't need to. Everything syncs." "That's creepy," I said quickly. "You're acting like some investigator." He finally met my eyes. Maybe that's what happens when trust is gone. I scoffed. "Oh, please. I made one mistake, and you're turning it into a crime." He nodded slowly, as if noting it down. Interesting choice of words. I stepped closer. "Can we not do this like strangers? Just tell me what you want." He closed the folder and placed it in a box with others. "Order, that's what I want." The word echoed, sharp and sterile. I followed him to the hallway. So that's it? You're moving out after one awkward dinner? He paused by the door. It wasn't one dinner. It's been a year of small lies dressed as jokes. Last night just made it easier to see clearly. I reached for his arm. You're overreacting. Everyone says couples go through things. Your mom, he interrupted, called me this morning to apologize. For you. The floor felt unsteady. She had no right. She did. Someone had to speak honestly. He turned the doorknob. You should try it. He left before I could form another word. That night, I called Nadia. She said he was just trying to scare me, that he'd cool off once he realized he couldn't win the breakup optics. Post something cute, she advised. Show you're not bothered. People eat that up. So I did. I uploaded an old photo of us at a friend's wedding. Me laughing, him looking at me like I was his whole world. Caption, can't wait to marry my best friend. Within minutes, hearts and comments flooded in. Beautiful couple. Love goals. But one comment stood out. From an account I didn't recognize. He doesn't look like that anymore. I deleted it immediately, my fingers trembling. The next morning, I woke to another calendar alert on my phone, added from his shared account again. Paper drop, 8 a.m. I didn't understand why he hadn't revoked my access. Maybe he wanted me to see. I went into the kitchen to make coffee and noticed something small on the counter, a flash drive. It was taped beneath the salt shaker, almost hidden. The label, Archive A. My hands shook as I peeled it off. Inside my laptop, the drive opened to folders, photos, receipts, recordings. One folder named Dinner. There it was. The video Nadia had taken at the restaurant, the one she swore she only sent to the group chat. The clip showed Elias's hand brushing my back, my laugh too loud, Gavin's still face in the corner. The title under it, Public Record. I slammed the laptop shut. My chest was pounding. Was he planning to humiliate me? To show everyone? I texted him again. You've made your point. Can we talk privately? No answer. An hour later, Nadia called. Girl, what's going on? Your post got taken down. Did you delete it? I didn't touch it, I said. Well, it's gone. And Gavin's not following you anymore. His profile's private. My throat went dry. Private how? Like he wiped everything. Photos, posts, tags. It's just blank. I sat there staring at the wall. My reflection in the TV looked like someone caught mid-blame. Eyes wide, mouth open, no sound. That evening, I drove to his mother's house. Margaret opened the door but didn't invite me in. He's not here, she said. I tried to smile. Can you just tell him I stopped by? She looked at me for a long second. He said you'd come. He said you'd try to explain when there was nothing left to explain. I just want to fix it. Her voice softened, but not kindly. You can't fix what you keep pretending isn't broken. Then she closed the door. I stood on the porch until my phone buzzed again. A new email notification. Subject line, Acknowledgement. The sender was Gavin. Inside, one line. I received your messages. I'll address this properly. Properly. The same calm tone as always. When I got home, the apartment lights flickered on automatically. The air smelled faintly of toner again. I noticed the shredder bin by the desk was full, strips of paper curling like pale ribbons. He'd left behind one last thing, a small notebook, spine bent from use. Inside were lists. Each entry dated, brief, exact. Feb 14. It's not cheating if it's old friends. Mar 8. Late call, said phone died. Apper 21. Dinner, ex present. The last one stopped me cold. May 12th. Transition begins. I closed the notebook and pressed it to my chest, feeling the thin paper edges against my skin. He hadn't been reacting. He'd been preparing. Quietly, perfectly, legally. I wanted to scream, to tell him it wasn't fair, that I didn't deserve to be handled like paperwork. But the truth was, I'd given him every reason to document, to plan. I poured another glass of wine, stared at the closed guest room door he used to sleep behind, and whispered, You win, Gavin. The printer hummed again, one last page sliding out onto the tray. Blank, except for a single line at the bottom. File uploaded successfully. And even though I didn't know where he'd sent it, I knew exactly what it meant. Sunday brunch was supposed to fix everything. That's what my mother said when she called. Voice firm but polite, like she was scheduling a dentist appointment instead of an intervention. Family can smooth things over, she said. He respects appearances. She didn't understand that Gavin's silence wasn't pride. It was planning. Still, I went. I always go when people expect me to. When I arrived, the Liscombe house smelled of coffee and overcooked ham. My parents were already sitting at the table, pretending to read the newspaper. My mother smiled too widely. "Sit, dear. You look pale." I sat, folding my hands in my lap. "Any word from Gavin?" My father lowered the paper. "He called. Said he's fine." "He called you?" My voice cracked. "He's family now," my father said simply. That hit like a slap. I poured coffee I didn't want, just to have something to do with my hands. The spoon clinked against the mug too loudly. My mother tried for small talk. "Your engagement post was removed, wasn't it? People noticed." "I took it down," I lied. She sighed. "Maybe don't post for a while. Let things breathe." "Everyone's acting like I did something unforgivable," I said. "It was dinner. A misunderstanding." Her look was careful, practiced. "It was public, Vera. You made him look small." I laughed without humor. "So, now humiliation's illegal?" My father muttered. "Maybe not illegal, but it has consequences." Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. My mother wiped her hands and went to answer it. I heard quiet voices, then shoes on tile. When she came back, she wasn't alone. Margaret Rourke stood in the doorway holding a casserole dish wrapped in foil, like she'd come for sympathy but found a battlefield instead. Her presence shrank the room. She wore calm like armor. "Margaret," my mother said softly. "Just a short visit," she replied. Her eyes found me. "I hoped we could speak." I stood, forcing a smile. "Of course." She set the dish down carefully. "I'm not here to scold. Gavin asked me not to, but I think you should know he's taking space seriously." "Space," I repeated, the word dry in my mouth. He's always dramatic with phrasing. "It's not drama," she said evenly. "He's organizing." Something about the word made my stomach twist. "Organizing what?" She looked at my mother. "You haven't told her?" My mother shifted uncomfortably. "We thought Gavin would." "Tell me what?" I demanded. Margaret clasped her hands. "He's separating finances, closing joint accounts, returning deposits for the venue. Quietly, but thoroughly." For a second, everything went muffled. "He can't just—" "He can," my father said. "Legally, until you're married, it's all his discretion." I sat down hard. "So he's punishing me by undoing our life? For optics?" Margaret's tone softened. "He's doing what's proper. No arguments, no shouting, just order. He doesn't want this to turn ugly." "Too late," I snapped. "He's making it ugly by acting like a robot." She studied me for a long moment. "Do you ever stop to think how this looks from the outside?" I hated the question because I used to live for the outside. The perfect pictures, the smiles, the envy. Now it all looked like evidence. My nephew, Liam, wandered into the room holding a toy plane. He looked up at me innocently. "Is Uncle Gavin still coming to our wedding?" The room froze. My throat tightened. "He's busy, sweetheart." Liam frowned. "But he said he'd dance with me." "He will," I said too quickly. "He just needs time." He nodded like children do when they don't understand but want to help. He ran back to the living room. Margaret exhaled. "He's not cruel, Vera. He just wants peace." I forced a smile. "Peace is overrated." Her lips tightened. "So is pride." She turned to leave. My mother followed her to the door, whispering apologies. I stayed seated, staring at the tablecloth pattern until the lines blurred. My phone buzzed, a voicemail alert. I pressed play. Gavin's voice came through calm and steady. "Please direct future questions through my email. I'll respond once everything is in order. Everything in order, like I was a misplaced file." My mother returned, sighing. "He's not coming back until this settles." "This?" I said. "You mean me?" She didn't argue. That night, I went home with a pit in my stomach and a plan in my head. If Gavin wanted control, I'd show him I could still command attention. I'd post something light, something harmless, proof I wasn't falling apart. I staged the apartment. Candles, a bottle of wine, the framed photo from our engagement shoot. I took a picture, angled so the two mugs sat side by side again. Caption: "Some love stories just need patience." Within an hour, it had over 100 likes. Nadia commented, "There she is, queen of calm." Then another comment appeared from an anonymous account. "Check your tag before you preach." I clicked it. My heart dropped. Someone, Elias probably, had uploaded a selfie from that dinner. His caption: "Always good catching up. Old habits die hard." In the background, Gavin's reflection was visible in a mirror, expression blank. My tag was right under it. The comments exploded. Wait, isn't she engaged? Girl, this is messy. Imagine the fiancé seeing this. I deleted my post, but the damage was already spreading. Nadia texted, delete everything. Now. I did. Then I turned off my phone, sat on the couch, and stared at the blank TV screen until my reflection looked like a stranger's. When I finally opened my laptop, an email notification blinked. From G. Rourke. Subject, notice. I clicked it, breath shallow. The message was short. There's no anger here, only clarity. I'll handle it properly. Please don't contact Elias again. That phrase again, handle it properly. He was turning our breakup into a business procedure. I slammed the laptop shut. You can't file feelings, Gavin, I said into the empty room. The clock ticked too loudly. I grabbed my keys and left, driving nowhere until I ended up in front of his office building. Lights were still on inside. Through the glass, I saw him at his desk, speaking to someone in a gray suit. They shook hands, paperwork exchanged. I stayed in the car, hidden by the dark, and watched as he packed his briefcase. When he looked toward the window, I ducked down instinctively, heart pounding. He walked out to the parking lot, phone pressed to his ear. His mouth moved, calm as ever. Then he got into his car and drove away without glancing once in my direction. I sat there until the street emptied, trying to convince myself I hadn't just watched the end of something real. When I finally got home, the apartment door was slightly open. Panic flickered. Inside, nothing was missing, but everything was rearranged. The photos of us had been turned face down, his shirts gone, the drawers neat. On the table sat a single envelope addressed to me. Inside, our engagement ring, folded receipt from the jeweler, and a sticky note in his handwriting. Return if desired. Inventory simplified. I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. Who ends an engagement like an audit? I left the note on the counter and went to the window. Outside, the streetlights glowed cold and still. Somewhere in the distance, a printer hummed. Maybe from the apartment above, maybe in my imagination. I whispered, "Fine, Gavin. You want order? I'll give you a reason to lose it." But even as I said it, my voice trembled, because deep down I knew he wasn't the one losing control. I was. And whatever he was preparing, it wasn't revenge. It was resolution. Quiet, lawful, final. The night after I found the ring and the receipt, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his calm expression at the dinner table, the way he folded his napkin before walking out. That same quiet precision followed me into every thought. I told myself I'd confront him, that I deserved closure. But part of me knew I wasn't looking for closure. I wanted control again. The next morning, I called Nadia. "He's not answering anything," I said. "Not texts, not email, nothing." She sighed dramatically. "Then show him you're fine. Go out. Post something happy. The silent ones always break when they see you thriving." I wanted to believe that, so I put on the red dress he once said made me look like I owned the room. I didn't bother with breakfast. My stomach felt twisted anyway. When I stepped outside, the air smelled like rain and exhaust. The world looked irritatingly normal. I went downtown, browsed stores I couldn't afford, smiled at shopkeepers who didn't care. Every reflection in the glass felt like someone else's life. At lunch, Nadia met me at a cafe. She wore sunglasses indoors, like she was avoiding a camera. "Any updates?" "His mother called," I said. "Apparently he's moving forward with some personal steps." Nadia raised an eyebrow. "That sounds ominous." "It's Gavin. He probably means something dull, like reorganizing bills." She leaned closer. "And what if he's filing something?" I froze mid-sip. "Filing what?" "I don't know," she said. "You're not married yet, right? He could walk away clean." I tried to laugh, but it came out tight. "He wouldn't. He's not cruel." "Cruel?" She smirked. "You embarrassed him in front of both families. He doesn't have to shout to make it hurt." I changed the subject, talking about work, traffic, anything else. When we parted, she hugged me like she was comforting someone she no longer fully liked. That evening, when I got home, the apartment was spotless. Too spotless. The air smelled faintly of bleach and toner. On the table sat a box labeled in his handwriting. Utilities, lease. Inside were copies of our bills, payment records, even my own printed emails about rent transfers. He'd separated everything. I slammed the lid shut and muttered, "Petty." Then I called him again, straight to voicemail. I tried once more, slower this time, leaving my voice softer than I felt. "Gavin, we can talk. I made mistakes. I get that, but you don't need to turn this into paperwork." No reply. And that night my mother texted, "He's being quiet. That's not anger, it's strategy." I didn't answer. Instead, I opened a bottle of wine and scrolled through my photos, looking for something to post. I found one from last spring, Gavin and me by the lake, sunlight hitting our faces just right. I cropped it, filtered it, and wrote, "Love isn't perfect, but real love fights to stay." It felt dramatic, maybe desperate, but I hit post. Within minutes, likes trickled in. Friends commented heart emojis. Nadia added, "Amen." Then, an unfamiliar account commented, "He's already staying somewhere else." I deleted it instantly, pretending I hadn't seen it. The next morning, I noticed a faint change in the apartment. The guest bed was gone. Not just the sheets, the entire frame. I hadn't heard any noise overnight. Maybe he'd arranged for movers while I was out. A few nails still poked from the wall like reminders. On the nightstand sat his old alarm clock, still ticking, but unplugged. I felt a flicker of panic. He was rewriting the space without me. At noon, I got an email from a neutral address. No name, just a logo. The message said, "Please confirm receipt of shared document." Attached was a PDF titled Inventory A. I clicked it. A full list appeared: furniture, electronics, joint purchases, each with a note, pending division. I scrolled until my name appeared beside half of them, every entry time-stamped, every line neat. I wanted to throw the laptop. Instead, I typed back, "This is unnecessary. We can talk like adults." No reply. By evening, I was shaking from frustration. I drove to his office again. The lobby guard recognized me and frowned. "He's already left for the day." "Do you know where?" "Sorry, ma'am." I stood there until the security lights flickered on, then finally left. When I reached the parking garage, my car was parked next to his usual spot, empty now. On the ground where his tires used to sit, a folded note rested like it had been dropped on purpose. I picked it up. "Stop chasing shadows. Everything will be clear soon." No signature, no handwriting I could trace. But I knew it was him. When I got home, Nadia called again. "You look tense," she said when I answered the video chat. "He's freezing me out." Then force his hand, show up at his place, or better, make him jealous. Post something with Elias. Pretend you moved on first. "That's childish," I said. "So is sulking." I hesitated. Elias texted this morning, actually, said he was sorry about the mess. Then there's your angle. Use him. I didn't reply. I poured another drink instead. By midnight, the apartment felt too quiet again. A faint buzzing came from the hallway, his printer, still connected to the Wi-Fi. I hadn't unplugged it. I went over and saw the green light blinking. Another page slid out. Blank, except for a single printed line at the bottom. Meeting confirmed. Thursday, 10:45 a.m. I pressed my palm against the paper. The ink was still warm. Sleep didn't come. I lay in bed imagining what he was preparing. Some letter, maybe, or a lawyer's notice. My mind jumped from fear to fury to regret. Around 3 a.m., I got up and opened every cabinet, every drawer, as if finding something of his would mean he wasn't really gone. In the bottom of the closet, I found a single box labeled Archive B. Inside were USB drives, envelopes, even a flashcard labeled Household 2. I didn't open them. I just sat there, surrounded by files and silence, realizing how thoroughly he'd built a case I couldn't even see. The next day, I decided to confront him one last time. I sent a final message. "We can end this properly if you'd just talk. Please." An hour later, he replied, "I agree. I'll handle it properly." That word again. Properly. Cold, clean, final. I told myself he meant closure, not punishment. I showered, dressed neatly, even did my makeup. I rehearsed lines in the mirror, apologies, excuses, anything that could sound reasonable. At sunset, I saw his car pull up outside. For a heartbeat, hope flared. Maybe he'd changed his mind. When I opened the door, he looked composed, almost gentle. "Can we talk inside?" he asked. I nodded quickly. He walked in, gaze scanning the room like he was taking inventory again. "You've been drinking a lot lately," he said softly. I laughed uneasily. Observation noted. "I'm not here to fight," he said. "I'm just setting things straight." "You mean dividing things?" He nodded. "Yes, properly." I folded my arms. "What if I don't agree?" "Then there are other ways," he said, still calm. The way he said it chilled me more than shouting ever could. He placed a small envelope on the counter. "This outlines what happens next." "Next?" He didn't answer. He just gave that small, patient smile and turned toward the door. "Gavin," I said, desperate now, "don't you want to fix us?" He paused, hand on the handle. "I want peace, Vera. You handle noise. I handle things properly." And then he left. The lock clicked behind him, sealing the air tight. I stared at the envelope but didn't open it. My reflection in the window looked steady, but my pulse wasn't. I whispered the lie that always comforted me. He'll come back once he cools off. But something in his voice told me this time he wouldn't. The courthouse lobby was colder than I expected. Morning light poured through the glass ceiling, catching the edges of metal benches and faces of strangers. I spotted him near the clerk's desk, calm, composed, wearing that same quiet focus I used to mistake for patience. When he saw me, he didn't smile. He simply handed a document to the woman behind the counter, nodded once, and turned toward the exit. The clerk called my name next. My hands shook as I accepted the envelope. The first line read, "Petition to terminate joint lease and financial agreement. Temporary orders in effect." My signature line was already filled in from our application months ago. The ink of my name sealed my own undoing. I looked up, but he was already halfway to the doors, sunlight outlining him like something untouchable. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. The papers rustled softly in my grip, and when the doors closed behind him, the sound was final. Clean, lawful, and perfectly quiet.